Today we are diving into the blog post from Guild Wars 2, the Bare Necessities blog post. But before we dive into it, hey, I'm Fornax, welcome to my channel. Do make yourself at home, and if you find anything of merit herein, please do press my buttons below. Okay, so the Bare Necessities, a peek at the Lowland Kodan and the story of Janthir Wilds. Obviously, spoilers ahead. Nothing too exciting, but I am going to be speculating as well, so I could stumble upon some speculation spoilers. Let's begin. Hey there, this is Indigo, the Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds narrative lead, and Chloe, the expansion story design lead. We'd like to walk you through a high-level look at Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds story to help set the stage for launch next month. My goodness, it's so close. Okay, so the story of Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds is a treasure trove of intrigue and lore, both past and present, and we'll be encountering a variety of allies and enemies as we venture into the long-awaited region of Janthir. Yes, the community, ever since the Eye of Janthir, has been wanting to get up there, so they're not lying, it's been a while coming. We'll be picking right up where Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure left off. So let's dive in. And they've even put out light spoilers ahead. We'll be teasing a little bit of the region and current affairs surrounding the start of the expansion. So if you'd rather go in totally unspoiled, you'd best skip this one. Bridging Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure. To get things going, let's look back at last year. Following the end of the Dragon Cycle, Tyria had no idea what the ramifications would be. As we've learned in Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure, Suwon's death caused a powerful blast of magical instability that fractured all sorts of magical forces and barriers within Tyria. Aurene immediately went to work, establishing herself as a filter for those magics, and stability was quickly restored. But we've only just begun to understand the consequences of that transfer of power. Right at the onset of Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure, the commander was thrown into uncharted territory. We learnt that the World Spire, a powerful conduit forged by the wizard Isgaran, was fractured following the blast. The Spire was one of the few barriers sitting between us and potential calamity, and it only took a moment for the denizens of parallel realms to worm their way in, and thus the commander was introduced to the long-fought war between the Astral Ward and the Cryptus. Throughout the story of Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure, the commander aids the Astral Ward in rescuing the Wizard's Court whilst toppling the malevolent Cryptus King Eparch. While the fight against the Cryptus was won, there are a lot of stories left to be told about our wizardy new friends. The Astral Ward has proven to be a worthy ally with a benign cause, but we barely touch the surface of some of their more questionable choices, not to mention their cantankerous leader, Isgaran. We know they helped in some ways, but why didn't they get involved sooner? And where do we even start with the fractal fiasco? So I'm very happy that they are using the transfer of power, Aurene's ascension, to be Tyria's catalytic converter to branch out stories into the multiverse of the myths. And there is fertile ground there. If you don't know, in the original campaigns, we had the Realms of Torment being the place of origin of the Titans, who we see here. So it's very likely that the barrier between multiple realms, including the realms of the gods, which includes the realms of torment, have been disturbed, allowing some of their denizens through. Now, how porous these borders are, we will have to wait and see, but it's certainly exciting. I mean, it was assumed that we had, in the previous franchise, taken care of all the Titans, and I don't think that we missed any, so definitely confirmed that at least that aspect of the Realm of Torment has been opened. I would also point to the fact that the Realm of Torment is not only the home of the Titans, it is also the prison in which Abaddon was placed after his fall from grace, shall we say, after the War of the Gods. Just imagine a fantastic new fractal where we go and see and confront Abaddon and get to have that moment really lived out in game where the gods stripped him of his power, where they all stood against him. That would be amazing. Also, a denizen of this realm, who we know is involved with the Realms of Torment, is Balthazar's evil brother, Menzies. And he was one of the creators, the commanders of the Shadow Army. We've seen Canaxai. Will we see Menzies? Will we see Malik? I know that we have Malik in the game, not the Savari, but the demon. Could we see the rise of Malik? And could there be some interesting story ramifications for Revenants? That would be amazing. Really integrating the professions into the lore of the game more, I would love to see. I would love to see individual storylines for each of the professions that we could play through Final Fantasy XIV style. That would be amazing. Although again, these are annual expansions, so we have to temper our expectations when it comes to production scale. Now, on the topic of the Astral Ward, I largely agree. I think the Astral Ward are a force for good. They certainly seem to be a benevolent entity. However, Isgaran definitely is not a benevolent entity, to say the least. He is a true power broker in every sense of the word, and I feel like he has a very grandiose sense of his place in our world, or rather, our place in his world. I feel like he thinks that he is the de facto ruler of Tyria, the de facto Lord Protector, perhaps might be a more kind term for that. He is the manifestation in the game of the political machinations that play out in international politics. It's all about power, it's all about positioning, it's all about capturing wealth and influence, and nothing whatsoever to do with morality. Yes, international politics, you gotta love it. But it's great that he's there. He is the curmudgeon, he is that juxtaposition to our character as we are portrayed in the game as very much more open, very much more hopeful, very much more youthful optimism from the commander, which hopefully going forward we might balance one another out. Unless of course he goes full like dark side, which might be really fun. Also, this expansion gives us another opportunity to dive into his backstory, of which we know shockingly little. The fact that he might be the king of all the seers, that's never really spoken about other than a couple of lines when he's talking to Paitha, which I really want to follow that narrative thread to see what his story was and how he got there. And not just in conversations, I want to live this out. Let's do it in a fractal. Let's do it in some sort of magical memory MacGubbin. Let us live these moments, just like we did with Isgaran when he summarily expelled Eparch from the Wizard's Court. Also, I'm very happy that they've mentioned the fractals, not the fractals that we play, the fractals that we played through in the archipelago. Personally, for me, I don't buy or was not convinced by the narrative justification for all the fractals and all the suffering and misery and human experimentation that was undertaken by Isgaran and the Wizard's Court. To our knowledge, they have never intervened. And as said in this blog post, we will get an opportunity to understand why they haven't intervened and perhaps when they have and we have not been aware of it, which is even more exciting. More hidden lore, things that have been happening behind the scenes that we might pull back the veil to get to know more about the Wizard's Court's hidden hand, the puppet masters behind the scenes kind of vibe that I'm getting, which is really great and a great story device. Okay, so we're going to carry on. Time to pull back to the present. While the commander, now the Wayfinder, was fighting back against Eparch in Naos, the threat of the Cryptors did not go unnoticed by the rest of Tyria. In fact, the threat was very much noticed, and nations started talking. At the start of Janthir Wilds, the commander will receive an invitation to the inaugural meeting of the Tyrian Alliance, and oh boy, do they have a lot of thoughts about our latest demonic invaders. After everything the world has endured, Tyria's patience for destruction is limited. While we want to keep the minutiae surrounding the Tyrian Alliance under our hats for now, including our lavish host of guest appearances, speculation about that later, in addition to providing the player with a new direction, the Alliance also gives us the ability to demonstrate Tyria's growth outside of the main story path. What's happening to the rest of the world? How are things progressing when we're in the thick of an adventure? Fingers crossed we get a different kind of intro this time. I'm kind of hoping that we don't get a letter in the mail. As to the Tyrian Alliance, previously playing through the personal story, we saw the rise of the Pact, and I feel like it's going to be an evolution of that. with the end of the dragon cycle, really the pact's purpose has ended with it. However, you have all this martial prowess and experience, and you can imagine that leadership in the various nations sees this extra-national organization with all that firepower. I feel like they would want to fold that into some sort of national control with a council. So this makes a lot of sense if you're thinking about international politics, which I feel like this might be going into quite a bit. So that's interesting, and a bit of a Marmite situation. You either love the exploration of game politics or you hate it. But hey, that's what the skip button is for. When it comes to progression of the world, what I would like to see is clever use of phase mechanics. So if I have played through all the story, then my version of Divinity's Reach or the Black Citadel is slightly different. Different NPCs running around the place having different conversations talking about what's current, possibly even some physical manifestation of the changes that should have happened interior. So, for example, I think that the Order of the Crystal Bloom will be in ascendance across Tyria, not just in human cities, because literally the head of the Order is Kaith. So how many Sylvari are going to be wanting to walk down that path to become a Crystal Bloom themselves and to be blessed by Aurene? How many people will be abandoning the human gods and taking up the mantle of the Crystal Bloom? It would be everywhere, and so would iconography, to do with Aurene and her saving the entire planet. Also, we would be getting harassed and mobbed everywhere that we went. Obviously, I don't think that they can necessarily do that, but I think a bit of that might be very good for character development. It's one thing for us to go off to Cantha and nobody knows who we are, and to go to the Astral Ward and people be questioning our motives because we've been such a catalyst for change. However, ordinary Tyrians, especially in our faction at least, will know who we are. There should be some consequence to that. Also, I was talking about this on the Lightbringers podcast with Kruv, that because we have such a limited character creation, because they've said very strictly that we're not going to get any new races because of the structure of the story, I think that the Crystal Bloom and Kaith's transformation could be a fantastic opportunity for them to have something akin to the allied races in World of Warcraft, whereby you play through all the story and your reward for playing through the whole of the Dragon Rising cycle is to be able to unlock the ability to customize your character to have that crystalline appearance. Same for the Char as well. Imagine you play through the story, you play through the Icebrood saga, and your reward for doing so is to be able to customize your character so that they are a Flame Legion Char with all the awesome aesthetics and iconography that brings, so that we get some character evolution, because it doesn't seem like we will be getting a new race anytime soon, unfortunately. And so yes, I think that this might be a nice path to that. Hopefully they'll kind of fold this into the story at some point, although it is a huge amount of work even to make a customized version of a character. I'm not dismissing the amount of work, but I feel like it would be a nice opportunity to introduce diversity in the races without having to rewrite the whole world and have people playing through on characters that don't necessarily fit the lore. But yes, this could all roll into the invasion of the Cryptas. There could be whole areas of maps that we know and love, who, once you've played through all the story, phase and give people a sense that it is a living world, so that we can see the consequences play out in front of us. On to the greater Janthir region. One of the results of the first Tyrian Alliance meeting will be to send the commander and a very small team of allies into the dangerous wilds of the Janthir region, starting due north of Divinity's Reach over the Tyrian border. The initial focus of our mission is to establish a diplomatic connection with a small faction of Kodan. The Lowlanders, whilst hesitant, welcome us into their village. We spend some time getting to know their culture as we explore the Lowland shore, which we'll dig into a bit more in a moment. Partway through the story, we'll be pulled even further into Janthir. That's when we'll make our way into the Isles themselves. The bay is rich with history, bloody, brutal, sullen history, and we've never strayed too close until now. We know that Saul and his fledgling White Mantle went to the Isles in search of something, leaving with an eye of Janthir. We also know that other conspicuous figures have ventured into the region too. On the first island we reach, Janthir Sintra will begin to unravel the tragic history behind the ruined village of Gavril. But that's a good point to pause because, most importantly, bears. So I love the idea of exploring Kodan lore. We've had Kodan in the game since its launch, but we've never really got to understand their history, their connection possibly to the Norn. So yeah, I'm very excited to get to know these hench teddy bears. They are absolutely gorgeous. Gosh, imagine if you're a Norn player and you play through Janthir Wilds and then you get to unlock this as your character model. Oh, that would be so good. That would be so good. We discover that all Norn are actually bears. That's amazing. That's not confirmed, by the way. That's just my wild speculation. And let's talk about the White Mantle. If you haven't played through the raid stories, I'll link to my raid series where I talk about all the lore there. And we're talking about Saul D'Alessio, who we actually free from his White Mantle prison in the Bastion of the Penitent. Now, as the blog says, he went to the Isles of Janthir and he came back with an eye. We don't know if the eye is purely associated with the Masat or whether it represents another faction. We saw it in Epak's throne room. I speculated at the time when I made a video about this that we know that the eye has been used to torture Saul D'Alessio, twist his thoughts, break his mind. It is very possible that the contradictions in Epak's character, which are displayed in the Naos storyline, there could be a very good narrative reason for this, that he was being manipulated and tortured and mind melted by the Eye of Janthir that we saw when Pather took the throne. So, who is behind the eye? Could it be Menzies? Could we be facing a new Masat invasion? Or are they going to try to retake Naos because we discovered that Naos was the Masat original home realm? Could they be trying to take over Tyria again? I know that we killed the last Masat on Tyria. However, it is confirmed that they are extraplanar beings and they are in the multiverse out there. Are they coming back? That would be quite something. But Saul was not the only person to visit the Isles. So let's talk about Canak and Caudicus, because we know that Canak pursued Caudicus to the Isles. So we could see the return of that character with his brand new voice actor, and they could be guiding us through the Masat ruins, the White Mantle ruins of Janthir. And I think that we might be seeing Lady Wi's daughter again, Valette. A quick recap, spoilers ahead of course. So Valette is the daughter of Minister Wi and Lady Wi of the Order of Whispers. She took up the mantle of the White Mantle and was basically Caudicus's taxi service throughout our exploration of that storyline. And she, at the end, when her friend Demi Beetlestone was murdered by her father, she had a massive change of heart. She wanted to make amends. She aided us in taking down Caudicus, and she replaced Canak as Countess Anise's prisoner/ward. So she is making amends for her wrongdoing by aiding Countess Anise, and it would not surprise me one bit to see her guiding us through with Canak and Countess Anise through the White Mantle areas, giving us as much information as she can about what Caudicus did there, what they learnt. I like to see deserving characters get a redemption arc. Canak is a fantastic example of that. And of course we have Countess Anise as seen in the trailer, and she is one of the prominent members of the Shining Blade. So we could get more lore, more story about that with Livia at her side. Definitely we're going to see Livia in this expansion. If you played through the prologue of Secrets of the Obscure, you'll know that she was called away by the Crown as well. So I imagine she's going to be sat across from us, two wayfinders working our way through Janthir Wilds and uncovering Masat and White Mantle secrets. I'm very happy that they've taken this direction, and I'm tentatively confident that they will have learned some lessons from Naos and what they can deliver in the time that they have, fingers crossed. Anyway, back to the blog post, so the Lowland Kodan. One of the most exciting things to dig into has been our new faction of Lowland Kodan, who called Janthir Wilds home for many generations. Despite the region being viciously dangerous and inhospitable, they are expert survivalists and have carved out a comfortable, even cozy way of life in these lands. All Lowlanders are capable fighters and learn survival tactics from the time they are cubs. The Wayfinder will spend much of their time in Janthir learning about and learning from the Lowlanders, as they have much to teach. As a population isolated from their Northern Kodan cousins for so long and living in a much different environment, they are a little different from the Kodan we are familiar with. Perhaps the most noticeable difference lies in their spiritual belief system. Unlike other Kodan who revere the will and balance of Koda, the Lowland Kodan hold in reverence the environment, the relationship they maintain with it, and the responsibility they have as stewards of the land. Rather than viewing themselves as enlightened protectors chosen by Koda, Lowlanders act out of a duty to maintain necessary balance in a harsh place where taking is easier than giving, and survival can be difficult. These differences trickle down into other aspects of their society. Kodan leadership is often a partnership between the spiritual mouthpiece of Koda, called the voice, and a physical protector, called a claw. However, the Lowland Kodan have a claw as their sole leader, a feature of their society that goes back as far as anyone can remember. The claw is not without balance, though. A council that represents key roles in the village lend the claw perspective and advice. As the Wayfinder spends more time with the Lowland Kodan and begins to earn their trust, we'll gain more glimpses into their lives and their history as denizens of Janthir. I'm hoping that us getting to know the Lowland Kodan will actually give us insights into the rest of Kodan society, especially the spiritual aspect, because in Tyria, gods and monsters are real, so we can assume that Koda is real. I would be very interested to know where Koda came from, where the spirits of the wild came from. After all, the seed of our reality was Suon. So are they visitors like the human gods? Did Isgaran let the spirits of the wild into our realm? Are they perhaps mist realm beings who have found their way in, and Isgaran deemed them to be not a threat? That would be interesting. And are the Kodan a supplanted race, or did they evolve on Tyria? And hopefully we will get to understand this imagery from the Ice Brood saga. So we were teased a Kodan storyline. We really didn't get that much. We did interact with the villagers. We did see their plight. We did talk to them. They were being very heavily affected by the whispers of Jormag. However, this trailer was never really fully explored. So I am sincerely hoping one day we get some answers about this, perhaps via the Lowland Kodan and their re-engagement with their northern cousins. Fingers crossed. And of course, we have to make friends with the Lowland Kodan because they are the landlords of our new home. So fingers crossed, they're nice. Heading north of Janthir. The inhabitants of Tyria are on the cusp of a new era. It's time for nations to ally and work together on a more global scale. Those seeds of alliance were planted under the threat of the Elder Dragons, but the need did not end with the Elder Dragons. As new threats rise, it's good to have friends on your side. What better place to start than with the people living next door? The Lowland Kodan might prove to be valuable allies. If we earn their trust and convince them it's worthwhile to join the global conversation. So my speculation is that the Lowland Kodan will lean on us to take care of the invasive species of the Titans who have disturbed the delicate ecology of Janthir, and in exchange they will help us survive, understand the land, and of course when you are going into unfamiliar territory in a theatre of war situation, there is nothing more valuable than intel from people who live there and who understand the land. Even in our modern world with satellites and imaging, there is nothing more valuable than a person who's actually lived there for decades and decades and knows the minutiae of the area. So even if the Lowland Kodan aren't magical beings, they can be incredibly valuable in an alliance situation, especially given the context and hints of what we will be facing and the inherent dangers of the location. we will be undertaking our adventures. So we're excited to be able to give some first looks into the narrative of Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds. There is so much fun, exciting lore and history to dig into and to build upon with new stories and characters. We can't wait for you to experience it. Purchasing an edition of Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds before the expansion launches will grant you the Homesteader title, the Whispering Serpent boulders, and a box of your choice of one Serpent's Wrath weapon skin. And if you want to support content creators like me, you can use my referral link below to buy Janthir Wilds. It directly supports the channel, costs you not a penny more. You just follow the link and purchase as you normally would. Unfortunately, the link does not work for Steam, so that's that. Overall, I think it's a good blog post. I like the fact that they've kind of lifted up their skirts a bit and showed a wee bit of petticoat, but they haven't done the terrible Hollywood trailer thing and just show the entire plot. That's dust, guys. You have to stop doing that. It's really rough. And I'm happy with the direction that they're taking. I'm happy that we're getting to explore more of the court, more of its Garen, diving into the White Mantle, diving into the Titans and extraplanar invasions, which I think will be the kind of cut and thrust. 2 expansions, at least this one and the next one, I think will be dealing with the consequences of that fracturing of the protective barrier around Tyria. And then, gosh, who knows, maybe Guild Wars 3. I'm down for anything. But that's the blog post. Let me know. Are you enthused? Are you confident that they're going to pull off a good expansion? Are you worried? Let me know in the comments below. And whilst you're down there, please show some love to my wondrous, fantabulous supporters who keep the lights on here, who keep this one-woman show up running and sane adjacent. I couldn't do it without them. If you'd like to join my band of nerdy awesome, links below to subscribe, start and Patreon. And if you do decide to join our merry band, get to join a private Discord, Patreon parlor Discord, where I chat to my supporters there on the daily. And a big shout out to ArenaNet, who allow me to be a part of their wonderful partner program. They are amazing. Again, referral links below if you want to help out the channel and buy Janthir Wilds via the link, or if you want to try Guild Wars 2 for the first time, or persuade your friends to try Guild Wars 2 for the first time. The referrals down there for the free-to-play game as well, which costs not a bean, not a single brass farthing does it cost to try that, but using the link helps me out. But sadly, we have come to the very end. So until we meet again, please stay safe, stay awesome, and thank you so much.